Adding and subtracting decimals, there is one big rule that is super important that we follow in every addition and subtraction problem, and that is that we must always line up the decimals. So you're going to want to make sure that you have this written down in your notes, giant capital letters. I'm going to actually go back and even highlight this to remind myself that when we're adding and subtracting decimals, we have to line up the decimals. And what I mean by that is in this problem here, 30.19 plus 7.8, this isn't given to me in a format that I can add very easily. So I'm going to rewrite this problem by stacking the numbers. And before I even do that, I'm just going to go ahead and make my 2 decimal points and my line. And I'm going to make my final decimal point underneath it. I'm going to do that same thing over here on this problem. Decimal, decimal, my line where my answer will go, and then a decimal right underneath it. So my decimals are lined up before I even begin. And I have a little picture here that I use to remind myself. I always think of a snowman with its buttons, and you can think of this either as a belt or, you know, the line between the 2 different parts that make up the snowman's body. But this is how I remember that I'm supposed to line up the decimals, and it kind of looks like a snowman to me. So I need to also use the integer rules that we've learned. So the same signs, so we add, different signs, so we subtract. And so in this first problem, I noticed that they're both positive. They're the same signs, so I'm going to be adding these 2 numbers together. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at this problem. I've got negative 5.004 plus negative 3.2. These are actually both negative numbers. They have the same sign, so I'm actually going to be adding on this problem as well. Since I already have my decimals in place, it's going to be really easy for me to just write in the numbers 30.19. That decimal was already there for me. And I'm going to go ahead then and write the number right underneath it, 7.8. Well, it's clear to me that it goes 7.8. And I'm going to add a 0 here as a placeholder. If I didn't use this idea of putting the decimals first, lining them up kind of like the buttons on a snowman, I might make a mistake of where these numbers are. And then this is an easy addition problem. 9, 9, 7, 3. The answer to this problem is 37.99, or 37 and 99 hundredths. On this problem, I've already got my decimals in place. 5.004 and 3.2. 3.2. And I'm going to have to add in some zeros there as well. Now again, the reason that I'm adding these is because I had the same signs. They were both negatives. Same signs, so I add. So I'm adding these numbers together, 4, 0, 2, 8. And remember our rules that if they're the same signs, we add and then we keep the sign. These are both negative numbers, which means my answer is negative. This says you owe me 5 and some 0.004, and this says you owe me 3.2. Altogether, this is what you owe me. Here are a couple more problems for us to try. I'm going to go ahead and do that same thing I did on that last page. I'm going to think of my snowman. I'm going to put my 2 decimals with my line. And I'm going to look. Negative and a positive. These have different signs. Different, so I subtract. This is actually going to be a subtraction problem. I'm going to go ahead and put my larger number on the top, 3.9. Underneath that will go the 0.279. And up here, I'm going to have to go ahead and add some zeros. And then I'm going to do some subtraction. And I need to decide if my final answer will be positive or negative. What's larger? Something that has a whole number of 3 or something that doesn't have any whole numbers? Well, this number is larger. and it's positive. So whatever this answer is will be positive. I'd like you to go ahead and finish that problem on your notes. Here's two positive numbers, same signs, so we add. I'm going to go ahead and make my little snowman buttons here. This is an addition problem. 45.2 plus 12.83. I'm going to have to add that 0 up here, and I'll go ahead and come up with a final answer. It's just addition. Here are some lovely evaluate problems that we're becoming experts at, knowing that the word evaluate means that we're going to be substituting some value in for a variable. When I see the variable a, I'm going to be substituting or plugging in negative 47.505. And when I see the variable b, I'm going to be plugging in or substituting 3.59. And we remember that it's so important to not lose track of our negative signs. So I'm going to use bubbles as I always do. Bubble plus bubble. I left a pretty big bubble here because I noticed that A is kind of a long number. Here on this one, I'm going to write negative. I'm going to draw a line here so I can see my two different problems. Negative bubble plus bubble. And I'm going to leave this last problem here for you to set up. I'm going to go ahead and fill in these numbers. A is negative 47.505 and B is 3.59. A is negative 47.505 and B is 3.59. Now when I go in to start solving these problems, before I even start, I'm going to put in my 3 decimals, and then I'm going to use those integer rules. I've got a negative and a positive. These are different signs, so I'm actually going to be subtracting on this problem. I'll put the larger number on top, 47.505 plus 3.59. I'm going to need a 0. And on this problem, I noticed something right here. When I see those two double negatives, I'm going to use that trick my student showed me last year. I'm going to turn this into a giant plus sign. So now I have a positive 47.505 plus positive. These are positives. This will be an addition problem because they have the same signs. And there's my decimals. It'd be easy to set this one up. 47.505 plus 3.59. I'll add that 0. I'm going to leave this one for you to set up entirely on your own. These two for you to practice finishing on your own. Here are 2 games that you can try, adding and subtracting decimals. Carnes add decimals here at the end, and Carnes sub decimals, 2 pretty fun games for you to practice.